Hello, welcome to your Doctor's Report. I'm Dr. Juan Fernandez, owner of Full Life Chiropractic, and I want to welcome you alongside my wife, Dr. Whitney, who's also owner of Full Life Chiropractic. So I want to take a moment just to kind of go over some housekeeping things. The first thing you're going to notice is that you're in a group setting, more likely than not. And the reason we start in a group setting is super simple. All of us in this room have a central nervous system, a spinal cord, and a spine. I'll be going over what a normal healthy spine looks like, what an abnormal unhealthy spine looks like. So when we go back and look at your x-rays individually, you know exactly what you're looking at. Second, I'll be reviewing x-rays on the big screen TV behind me. None of these x-rays are any of your x-rays, obviously. That would be a HIPAA violation, so we won't be doing that today. Lastly, the big elephant in the room, the question everybody always has is like, when are they going to go over like how much it's going to cost? Is my insurance covered? All those things that are going through your head again. Also, private information we'll be reviewing in the back privately. So I don't know if you obviously know my story, but one of the things that drives me the most to share this message of chiropractic and help as many people as possible is my mom's story. It was almost 10 years ago when my mom called me to tell me the most devastating news anybody could ever want to hear. My mom called me 10 years ago to tell me the fact that she'd been diagnosed with breast cancer. So at that moment, she starts crying on the phone. Then, of course, I start crying on the phone because my mom is my hero. I saw my mom struggle day in and day out as a single mother of three to put food on the table and a roof over our heads. So I asked my mom, what are you going to do? She said, son, I know what I'm not doing. I'm not doing chemotherapy and radiation. At that moment, my heart sunk. I'm like, I don't know what else to do. That is the standard of care. I don't know what to do, Mom, but I know one thing. I know God put an amazing power in your brain, and if your brain and your body are communicating at 100%, it ought to function and heal at 100%. So Mom, let's get your spine checked. So we got her spine checked, and from the side view of the neck, you should have a 45-degree angle when we look at your neck on x-ray. When we saw my mom's x-ray, we saw that she had lost 100% of the curve in her neck. She has 0 degrees out of 45, which is not normal. From front to back, you are supposed to be completely straight. From T1 through T7, this area right here, T1 through T7, my mom had a bend in her spine going this way, crushing the exact nerves coming out of here, going to her breast tissue and vital organs. When I saw that on her x-rays, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that that was not obviously helping anything. It potentially even causing some issues, right? Because for years, I recall my mom having upper back pain, neck pain, headaches, chronic sinus infections, and every single time she went to the doctor, she would always receive the same exact answer, and that answer was always this big, came in an orange bottle with her name on it. It was obviously medication. Did it do its job? Of course it did its job. It did its job so well that it masked the symptoms for 10, 20, 30 years until unfortunately she was diagnosed with cancer that threatened to take her life at any moment. So I finally asked my mom, why now have you decided to take the fork in the road towards health and healing? So son, it is simple. I finally realized that I can die and I want to see my grandchildren grow up. For those grandchildren she's referring to are my kids. Eden, who's 10 years old, Eve, who's 8 years old, John Luke, who's 5 years old, and Ellery, who's 2.5 years old. So my mom chose to take responsibility for her health in her own hands to afford my kids, nieces, and nephews the opportunity of having a grandma in the future. And because of that, I am thankful, happy, and blessed to still report that my mom is still alive today, 10 years post-diagnosis, even though her doctors told her she's going to be dead in 6 months, right? So my mom took responsibility for her health in her own hands by coordinating the correct medical doctors, natural doctors, to afford my kids, nieces, and nephews the opportunity of having a grandma in the future. My question to all of you right now is, who is responsible for your health? You know the answer, you're responsible for your health, right? But who do we go to in this country when we have a health problem? We go to the doctor. Who tells you what doctor you can and cannot go to? Unfortunately, it's that little magic card we all have in our back pocket, which is called the insurance company. Not only that, the insurance company tells me, the doctor, what treatments I can and cannot do to you. Furthermore, if you go home right now, turn on your favorite TV show, what do we see every other TV commercial? You see an ad for medication, right? Folks, unfortunately, this whole system over here, pharmaceutical companies, insurance companies, medical doctors, right? By the way, medical doctors, nurses, physician's assistants, pharmacists, All those people are great people. I have patients that are in all those professions that come to this office, right? The unfortunate part though, and they'll admit it themselves, is that they're unfortunately stuck in a system that is unfortunately all about one thing and one thing only, folks, and that is this. If this guy right here has high blood pressure, they say not a big deal, we're going to put you on a pill. That pill, lisinopril for example, is going to obviously over and over and over and over and over, lower your blood pressure over and over and over, take that pill over and over. Oh, by the way, your heart's not working anymore, not a problem, we're going to cut it out and replace it with a new one. Unfortunately, somebody has to pass to give you the heart, but here you go, good for you, right? I know I'm being a little direct and blunt right now, but the reality is this, so folks, this is how the system works, right? And even for me, it's more actually mind-boggling because my father died at 48 years old when I was 18 years old on Christmas Eve. My mom just got done battling breast cancer for the last 10 years. I have zero reasons to hold back as to what's actually unfortunately going on in our medical system, right? Does it have its place? Of course it does, right? Emergency medicine is amazing in America. Unfortunately, chronic disease management is not doing so hot to the tune that it's actually affecting the children now, right? Children are unfortunately dying now of cancer, once believed a disease that only affected older people. So the fact is that the system is not working, right? The thing is this though, you're not here today to hear me rant and rave about how the healthcare system is not working. You're here today for one reason. You want to be healthy so you can be a blessing to your family and they can be a blessing to you, right? That's the only reason you're here. And the thing is this though, if you want to become healthy, we first have to start by defining what health is, right? Most people, when I ask them, hey, how do you know you're healthy? People say like, I don't really know that I'm healthy, but I think I know I'm healthy because I feel good. As a matter of fact, I want to help you feel good. That's the main reason you're here. You're feeling like something is off, you want help, and I want to help you feel good. The only problem I have with that definition of feeling equals health is the fact that, guess how you feel the day before you have a heart attack? Guess how my mom felt the day before she got diagnosed with breast cancer? Folks, feeling does not equal health because we can all feel great right now, unfortunately, have a heart attack tomorrow or not even know it's coming, right? But let's say that we don't ask mainstream people how they define health. Let's say that we ask actually super healthy people that go to the gym 3 times a week to stay fit, right? We ask them how to achieve health. Guess what they say you have to do? You have to what? Exercise and eat right. Exercising and eating right are definitely part of health. Nobody can deny that. However, right, is that the whole answer to health? Of course not. We all heard of somebody who exercised, ate right, looked good from the outside, shredded, very, very buff, who unfortunately drops dead of a heart attack on the treadmill at the gym, right? And then also we all have that family member in our families that is 85 years old, they drink, they smoke, they swear, they do everything wrong. Uncle Bobby, let's call him, right? Uncle Bobby still alive at age 85, takes 0 medications. My grandfather was that Uncle Bobby. My grandfather, my mom's dad, drank rum every day, smoked cigars every day. Between cigars, he smoked cigarettes. My grandfather lived until he was 91 years old, took 0 medications. So what is the difference between my grandfather, who did everything wrong, lived 91 years, and the hunk who's fit at 30 years old, who unfortunately dropped dead of a heart attack on the treadmill at the gym, unfortunately? What's the difference between those two people? Most people say, I don't know, Dr. Juan. The reality is this though, my grandfather's body was doing something completely different. It was actually rejecting all the alcohol and smoke damage. It was actually rejecting all that damage. It was actually adapting and healing faster than it can break down. Because the answer to what health is found in the word health itself. If you pause for a second and take the word health, right? And take just the first 4 letters, drop the TH at the end, the first 4 letters, what word does that spell out? Heal. Your ability to heal is what makes you healthy, folks. Your ability to heal is what makes you healthy. I will prove it to you this way. So let's say that we are raking leaves in the middle of fall, right? We don't want our grass to die, so we're raking leaves. We put those leaves inside of a black bag. Along with those leaves, a few twigs sneak into the bag. You obviously tie the bag up. As you're grabbing it to put in the back of the truck, you grab the bag, and unfortunately a sharp twig stabs through the bag and it cuts your arm from here to here. Pretty big wound, right? You start bleeding, crazy. At that moment you go to the hospital. At the hospital they put stitches in the actual area, and they also cover up the area to protect it. They keep you in the hospital for about an hour or two, right, to make sure you don't bleed out. 2 hours go by, the doctor or nurse comes by the room, they take off the gauze, they look at the wound to make sure the wound is doing what properly? Healing. If your wound is not healing, are you considered healthy? Of course not. Do they release you from the hospital? Of course they wouldn't, right? So your ability to heal so makes you healthy. Everybody with me, right? Of course, right? Then now, all we have to ask is the following question. We have to ask, what organ in your body controls all healing and function in your body? What organ is that? It's your brain. It's the brain, right? Is that a belief or a fact that the brain controls the body? Is it a belief or a fact? It's absolutely a fact, right? Because let's say that this person right here jokingly says, hey, I don't believe my brain controls my body. And unfortunately, something were to happen, this is kind of morbid, is that their head would be cut off. What would happen to that body? It wouldn't function. I know it's a vivid, obviously, example, right? Their body would not function because the brain is not controlling, right? So obviously, let's not use that example. Now, let's backtrack a million steps. Now, let's say that instead of me becoming a chiropractor, I decided years ago to become a cardiologist. And I am performing an open heart surgery on this gentleman right here. Everything is going great. Towards the end of the surgery, I make a terrible mistake and I accidentally cut the bundle of nerves going to this guy's heart. What happens to the heart immediately? Fortunately, it stops, and unfortunately, then he dies, right? Obviously, let's not do that either. Let's actually back up another million steps. Let's say now instead that I grab one of these bones right here, I shift that bone out of place, putting crushing pressure on the nerves going to the heart. Is that good or bad? It's bad. Is that heart functioning at 100%? No, it's malfunctioning. Does malfunction lead to health or disease? Disease. Does disease over time lead to a healthy life or an early death? An early death, right? What I just described is called a subluxation. A subluxation is a simple term that we chiropractors use to literally depict the misalignment that happens in the vertebra. So the vertebra right here, along with the vertebra on top, the disc in between, right? Vertebra shifts out of position, putting crushing pressure, unfortunately, on a nerve going to an organ. Of course, that can cause pain and discomfort, not always, right? But that obviously pressure on the nerves going to the heart, is that good or bad? It's bad. Is that heart function 100%? Of course it's not. Then the heart's not functioning 100%, you go to your doctor, they say, hey, you have a malfunction of your heart. No doctor really says that. They say you have a symptom. What do doctors give you for symptoms, folks? Medications, right? They give you the medications, and when those medications don't work quite well, what do they give you more of? Another fancier, more expensive medications in most cases, right? And when those expensive, more effective medications that are not working for you, what do they typically recommend after that to do to your body? They recommend what? Typically surgery, right? The thing is this though, let's just be real for a hot second here. I want you to literally imagine raising your hand in like a class if you agree with the next statement. So the next statement I'm about to make, if you want the statement to be true in your life, raise your hand. If you want to do it here now, go right ahead. The statement goes like this. I want more drugs and surgery in my life. Any takers? Of course, there are never any takers, right? Not even medical personnel want to take more drugs and get surgeries, right? So, but if you keep going back to a system that the only answer is drugs and surgery, what answer are we always going to get? Drugs and surgery, folks. The reality is this though, the fact that you have migraines is not because you have a lack of ibuprofen in your body, right? When you were 12 years old, you didn't need ibuprofen to not have a headache, right? So something has changed. Something has obviously adapted or shifted, right? There's something else. The father of modern medicine, Hippocrates, said, look well to the spine for the causes of disease. Because Hippocrates understood that the brain controls the body, down the spinal cord, out the nerves, every single cell, tissue, and organ in the body. We understand that the central nervous system is so important that God encased it in bone when He created us. He put a skull around the brain to protect it, vertebra down the spinal cord to protect that as well, right? So we know that the spine is supposed to be straight from front to back, because if you guys saw me walking on the street like this would be a scoliosis. When a scoliosis gets really, really bad, right, like really, really angulated, guess what they recommend to do to your spine? They recommend surgery, typically Harrington rods or some sort of straightening rods, right? But if a big scoliosis is a bad thing, enough to get a surgery, is a little scoliosis a good thing? Of course it's not, right? So we all know you are supposed to be straight from front to back. We know the standard. We see people, if we see people off, like, oh, they probably have a scoliosis, right? Many of us know that. However, many of us have never been taught that you are supposed to have a 45-degree angle in your neck, upper back, and lower back. Most people don't know that. In that position, straight from front to back, and these three curves intact, your body functions and heals at 100%, because your actual spine is able to accept the gravitational forces, almost like a shock absorber, and be able to adapt over time, right? And we always start by looking and analyzing the side view curve of the neck, because that curve is closest to what organ? The brain, right? So that's the first x-ray we're going to look at. So right here, first x-ray, this gentleman is facing in this direction, opposite of this guy, right? This is the back of the skull, so this area right here. This is the jawline, this area right here. When you go back to look at your x-rays and review your x-rays with the doctor, I want you to look for the first thing, most important thing, is this curve right here. That curve is known as the arc of life by neurologists. The reason why it's so important is because directly behind these red dashes lives your spinal cord. When you lose to a curve in your neck, you put pathological tension on your spinal cord, or disease-causing tension. I want you to hallucinate with me. I want you to please imagine that there's a banana right here, right on top of that, right? Let's say we grab the banana and try to straighten it out. What happens to that actual banana, the inside of it? What happens to it? It actually crushes it, right? Or smushes it. That is the same concept of what's happening in the actual spinal cord when you lose the curve in your neck. So the first most important thing you want to look for when we go back to review your x-rays is this curve right here, and it should be 45 out of 45 degrees. So this person happens to have 42 out of 45 degrees, okay? Which is a loss of curve of 7%. The next thing I want you to pay attention to is this line right here. That is forward head posture. That number right there says 7, it should be 0 millimeters. So what happens is that line should be directly in front of this vertebra. There should be no space between that, right? That line is supposed to be right there, should be 0 millimeters. What that is depicting is the following. Your ear should be directly over your shoulder. As you get older, muscles get weaker, you sit in front of a computer too long, you look at the phone too long, etc. You go from here to here, eventually here, and eventually you're here, and eventually you will be walking with a cane, right? That we all have seen that. That is because this actual number is getting larger, larger, and larger, okay? Second most important thing I want you to look for. Next, it's the shape of each vertebra. Each vertebra should be a rectangle or a square. That's what it should typically look like, right? It shouldn't have any jagged edges, pointy things, right? So we all in this room should agree that this vertebra right here has a little pointy thing right there. That is osteoarthritis or just plain old arthritis, right? Next is the space between each vertebra. It's the disc. We all agree my pinky fits about equally throughout. We should then also agree that that disc right here is thinner than the other ones, right? That is degenerative disc disease, DDD, right? Also don't want to see that on your x-rays. These two lines up here are the last two things I want to go over for this x-ray. This line right here is the occiput. This is the atlas. These two lines must be at 18 degrees from horizontal. What that means is simply this. If my finger is on the horizon, right, the angle between my finger and that red line should be 18 degrees. If that angle is higher or lower, either there or here, you're putting crushing pressure on your brainstem. This is where typical issues that people have, like eye tracking, some vision problems, ear infection in kids, vertigo, tinnitus, right? Also sinus issues, depression, anxiety, ADD, ADHD, headaches, migraines, all come from that area. Why? All the information from your brain, it is squeezing through the brainstem down two holes that are supposed to be aligned correctly. If they're not aligned, you cause almost like an occlusion in that area, reducing the information from the brain to the body, right? So the next x-ray I want to share with you is of a patient I had in the past. Her name is Robin. Robin came into our office because she was suffering from excruciating migraine headaches for the last 12 years. She's 36 years old, mother of 2 young boys under 5. She works as a paralegal in a law firm, and she's been dealing with these migraines for 12 years. So for 12 years, she's gone from doctor to doctor, medication after medication, injection after injection. In 12 years, she spent $25,000 out of pocket, meeting the deductible here, there, and everywhere, right? Only to be told, there's really nothing else we can do for you. Here is a pill. By the way, the pill is so potent, strong, and so toxic that you can only take 1 pill a day in a 24-hour period, and the pill effects are going to last about 8 hours. You're going to take another pill into the next day. So she would then take her pill, she would go to work, she would do her job as a paralegal on the computer, phones, computers, for 8 hours. She would then get home from work, walks into her house, says hello to her husband, hello to baby number 1, hello to baby number 2. She would then go into a dark room, no lights, no sounds, nobody bother mommy tonight, because guess what, daddy, you got mommy duty tonight. She couldn't be the wife she wished she could be. She couldn't be the mom she wished she could be. I have no idea what a migraine feels like, but that sounds miserable. So she comes to her office. I said, okay, hey, Robin, let's get you the help you need. She's like, Dr. Juan, listen, the only reason I'm here is because the only option I have left, according to doctors, is that they're going to cut nerves at the base of my skull on both sides, and there's a 50% chance that it might work. Part of my face may be slightly paralyzed or slightly numb for the rest of my life, and I don't want to take those chances because I got 2 young babies under the age of 5. I said, okay, fair enough. Let's get you the help you need. She's like, Dr. Juan, listen, I have to be completely transparent with you. I apologize, but I was raised in a household where my parents taught me that chiropractors are quacks. I'm like, I've heard that before, right? I said, you know, at the end of the day, I understand that that's what you've been taught. She's like, I know, but beyond that, I feel bad because I don't really believe in chiropractic. I'm like, okay, well, cat's out of the bag, right? The thing is this, though, as I said to her, chiropractic is not a belief system. Chiropractic is not Judaism, it's not Islam, it's not Christianity. Those are belief systems. Chiropractic is about, literally, facts and anatomy. I'm like, can we just please take a look at your facts, Robin, and then see where you are? Says, okay, so we pull up her x-ray. This is Robin's x-ray right here. And by the way, she's facing in this direction, no different than this guy right here. That is her x-ray. That's the back of the skull, jawline. Is that good or bad? Obviously bad, right? So would anybody in this room be surprised if I told you she was having 6 migraines out of the 7 days of the week? Of course it shouldn't be surprising. Would you be surprised if I told you she had neck pain? Of course she has neck pain. Her neck is going the opposite direction, right? So clearly she sees her x-ray. Guess what she says? Oh, wow, I get it. No doctor has ever looked in my neck. They always looked at my head because that's where my headaches were. So says, let's get started. Let's get this corrected. So we start adjusting her, right? Are we going to fix this adjusting it once a year? Twice a year? Once every 8 weeks? Once a month? Once a week? According to the research, the latest research, it says that for us to start correcting an adult spine that has 0 degeneration, so no arthritis, 0 degeneration, it takes 3 times a week for the first 60 to 90 days for us to even start remotely correcting it. She says, okay, so she starts coming. She starts coming. She really starts coming 3 times a week for 2.5 weeks. It's like, Dr. Juan, I think I'm fixed all the way. Look, take a look at my neck range of motion. My headache's not as bad. I think I'm fixed all the way. Can you please take an x-ray? I'm like, I don't believe there's any way you're fixed all the way. Literally, we just got you started. You've been in this position for 36 years. She's like, I know, but it's getting nice out. The weather's changing. It's getting warmer out. I want to be able to go home with my kids because I feel good. I'm like, I get it. Let's just stick to the plan. So she continues, right? Another 5 weeks go by. So like, Dr. Juan, look, I'm feeling so good. My neck's moving so much better. I think I'm fixed all the way. Can you please take an x-ray? I'm like, there's no way you're fixed all the way. Literally, you've been way too late for your first adjustment. Like, let's just stick to the plan. So no, Dr. Juan, but I insist. So we go back and forth. I'm like, look, the only way that I can actually justify taking an x-ray is by you signing this piece of paper right now that says that I'm going against my doctor's recommendations. I want an x-ray. And at the end of the day, we got into a point there where she was almost, not necessarily arguing, but, you know, very determined. And I'm like, look, Robin, I'm not here to argue with you. And by the way, I'm saying this out loud for everybody in here right now. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here to serve you, right? You came into our office because you have a problem. My job is to help you fix that problem naturally without drugs and surgery, right? I'm not here to argue, I'm here to help you and serve you. But the thing is this though, I cannot justify exposing your brain, your eyes, your thyroid to more radiation when it's not warranted. So the only way we can do that is by you signing a piece of paper saying that you understand the risk and you're willing to take them. She signs a piece of paper, we take the x-ray. This is Robin's x-ray after 7 weeks of corrective chiropractic care. She goes from going the opposite direction to almost completely straight. It is obviously better. Is it fixed all the way by any means of the imagination? Of course not, right? However though, wild guess how many headaches is she probably having right here? From 6 down to, she's having 2 headaches a week. Are they migraines anymore? Of course not. They are tension headaches she can manage with chiropractic adjustments and etc. over-the-counter medications. So her doctor takes her off for $385 a month medication. More importantly for her, she's able to come home, be the wife and the mom she wish she could be. Moms, what is this worth to this young lady? It is priceless, right? At least $25,000 clearly because she already spent it trying to fix it. $4,000 is what a terrible, horrific case costs in our office, right? And I don't go over that to go over the value of the cost of our care. I go over that for a simple reason, folks. It takes time to correct your spine. Think about it this way. Would you ever sign up for me at 230 some pounds to grab your neck and give you one really solid adjustment and fix it all the way? Would you ever sign up for that? I wouldn't sign up for that. I'd be ripping muscles, ligaments, tendons, probably break a bone or two. That is called surgery. We don't do that here. What we do is simple. We literally adjust you over and over and over and over until we get you to that 45-degree angle, or as close as humanly possible to that angle, right? So obviously right here, she's doing great. Most people are doing great. What do most people do at this point? They quit. If she quits right here, does her spine magically go to 45 degrees? Of course not. It goes right back to its last known position because of this thing called muscle memory. If you all have noticed, you come to our office, you notice that there's rehab that we do here prior to you getting adjusted. The reason why we do that is because we understand muscle memory and we want to literally train your muscles, ligaments, and tendons to hold your spine in a new position, right? So she's like, okay, I get it. She continues care even though she wants to quit. I'm like, let's just stick to the plan. But right here, she reveals something. She said, hey, look, I apologize. I never put this on my paperwork when I first started, Dr. Juan. But the thing is that I was on a medication before I started here. I was on a medication called Synthroid. Synthroid is a medication you take for your thyroid. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not surprised by that because when you look at structure, it determines function. So right here, this is C4 and C5. This is the area of most tension and pressure. It's where the neck is going in the opposite direction. C4 and C5, the nerves that come out of there, go to the thyroid. So not a surprise at all that she was taking medication Synthroid, right? So she goes to her doctor about maybe 2.5 weeks after this actual x-ray was taken. And she goes to her doctor. Her doctor's looking at her blood pressure, says, hey, Robin, good to see you again. I have no idea what you've been doing, but your T4 levels are nearly 3 times as high as they should be. I need to take you off of your Synthroid medication also. So now she's off of 2 medications, able to be the mom and the wife she wished could be. What is this worth to this young mom? Priceless. How long do you think Robin wants to feel that way for? Forever, right? But we all heard the stigma before behind chiropractic. We've heard it. Don't ever go to a chiropractor because once you start, you can't stop. You got to keep coming back so they can pay off their boats, their house, student loans, all those funny jokes, right? I've heard it all before, folks, right? The reality is this, though. I want you to think about it. When you get your spine corrected, your body's functioning better, you're feeling better, and your body's doing exactly what God designed it to do, and you're off of your medications. But then you go back to that job, sitting in front of a computer all day, driving a truck all day, digging trenches all day, whatever it is that you do. Is there any feasible way your spine is going to stay corrected for the rest of your life? The answer is probably not, right? This is exactly why when you get done with your initial care plan, we put you in a maintenance plan so you don't ever go back to where you started, right? And obviously, it would be really amazing if our insurance would cover every penny. Because just like you, I have really good insurance from the Army Reserves, right? The thing is that insurance, unfortunately, in our country has been named incorrectly. If you really think about insurance, does it kick in when you're healthy or when you're sick? Sick. So instead of being called health insurance, it should be called sick insurance. And I never really understood why insurance was never about covering things that are healthy, like a gym membership or eating broccoli or getting massages, etc. And I finally found the answer, and it's all according to the Medicare manual. So the Medicare manual is the gold standard for all insurance companies to at minimum meet what Medicare says. This is what Medicare says about wellness and healthcare, right? They say the following: care that seeks to prevent disease, promote health, and prolong and enhance the quality of life is not considered medically necessary. I was baffled when I first saw this, and I could not understand. So let's define what medically necessary is. Medically necessary, I'll tell you by sharing a story of something that happened to us. So my son, when he was 20 months old, he was jumping in an air bouncy house in the basement with our nanny, having a good old time. As he's jumping around, unfortunately, he lands kind of weird and actually fractures his left femur. My wife and I rush home. We're devastated. We're crying. We drive down to Dayton Children's Hospital. We walk into the emergency room. So we're walking in. There's two people on a computer doing this thing, you know, obviously checking people in. That is called an intake. An intake technically is a medical procedure to check you into the hospital. There is a fee to check you in. That fee is considered medically necessary because you needed to get help there at that moment. After that, we speak with the pediatrician on duty. She was phenomenal, calming, graceful. Like, we were literally devastated. We're talking with her, just calming and peaceful. As we're talking with her, she literally is going over the case for our son. For us to talk with her, that is called a consultation. A consultation is also a medical necessary procedure. Therefore, my insurance covered that as well. Then she says, look, I am so sorry, but I believe you guys are right. He may have something wrong with his leg, and I suspect it might be broken femur, and I'm so sorry, but we need to confirm that. So they take 6 x-rays. 6 x-rays are a medical procedure, medical necessary. Guess what? My insurance covered that as well. She pulls up the x-ray, says, I am so sorry, but your son does have a broken femur. So she shows us the x-ray. At that moment, she says, look, we need to cast your son. And I'm like, okay, what does that look like? It's like, yeah, we need to cast your son. I'm like, how do you cast a 20-month-old who won't stop moving? You sedate them. And if you do any research as to how dangerous it is to sedate children under 2 years old, you'll realize that if any minor mistakes happen, obviously that could be it for that child. So again, our son goes into the operating room, gets sedated, gets actually put in a spica cast, and most people don't know what it is, but it's a cast that goes around the hips. It actually immobilizes one leg and then part of the other. My son was stuck in that position for 28 days, right? That entire bill of that day was $8,295, of which my insurance covered almost every penny, and I had a $150 deductible. At that moment, my wife and I realized, as owners of Full Life Chiropractic, that what we do in our office and what the medical model, insurance model wants to do couldn't be more opposite. So at that moment, we parted ways with all insurance companies because we realized that they are waiting for you to break first so they can jump in second to fix you. I argue that we should probably catch you way over here before you're ever broken. So for that reason, in our office, the only insurance company we work with directly is Medicare. All other insurance companies, we still work with them, just differently. What we do is we provide you with a super bill. That's all the actual services and actual things that we've performed on you in our office with all the CPT codes, ICD-10 codes, etc. We give you that sheet, you submit that to your insurance. Whatever your insurance decides to refund back to you is between you and them, because obviously your health is your responsibility, right? So the next x-ray I want to go over is the last x-ray is Bob. Bob came into our office because he was having neck pain, and his wife was already under care because she was having headaches. They were about to retire. So they come into our office. He comes to the office to get his neck pain fixed because he's been doing construction work for many, many years. So he comes into the office, gets the first examination and x-rays like all of you did, does that, he leaves. Comes to the second appointment. In the second appointment, I give him his first adjustment like I did with most of you. And he's noticing like, man, my neck is so much better, not as sore, not as tight. I'm all in. He leaves again, comes to the third appointment, just like you guys are sitting in here. And in that appointment, he's like all in. He's answering all the questions. He's all excited, right? So we get done, like we're about to be done here in the next few minutes, and we're heading back to the rooms to go privately over his information. So I get to the door, I grab the door handle, I open the door. Meanwhile, Bob stops the door. He says, hey, Dr. Juan, I have to let you know something before we go in that room. I'm like, what's going on? It's like, listen, by the way, side note, I love your charisma, I love your mom's story, I love your heart. I have to let you know one thing though before we step in that room. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I have to let you know that I have really good insurance and I'm only going to do whatever my insurance covers. I'm like, Bob, I appreciate your honesty, but let me let you know one thing. This is your spine, not my spine. You do whatever you please with it. At the end of the day, our job was to figure out what was causing your problem and let you know whether or not we can help you. After that, the ball's in your court, right? We're going to respect whatever decision you make, and we're going to fully support because you're an educated adult and you know what's going on with your body. He says, okay, so we walk into the room, we pull up his x-ray. By the way, Bob is facing in this direction, this way, and this is x-ray right here. So that's Bob's x-ray. So this is the back of the skull, jawline. Is this good or bad? Obviously bad, you can see it, right? So Bob sees his x-ray, and guess what he says? He starts rambling. He's like, Dr. Juan, my neck is going the opposite direction. These two bones are jamming. These two bones are jamming up here. That this is almost gone. That one's on its way. I have arthritis. Tells me everything wrong with the x-ray. Any questions about the x-ray? No, Dr. Juan. I get it. It's bad. I understand why I have neck pain. So then we go over the other 5 x-rays we took. He's like, yeah, my shoulder's higher on one side and the other. My hips one side and the other. I've lost, curve in my low back. Tells me everything wrong with every x-ray. Any questions about the x-ray? He's like, no questions, Dr. Juan. Then we go over the financial responsibility and the actual care plan in our office. We go over how much it's going to cost, what insurance will cover, why it might not cover, the home care kit, the rehab access here in the office and also at home, the entire 9 yards. We go over everything. At that moment, I'm like, are there any questions? He's like, Dr. Juan, I have a few questions. He asked me a few questions, I answer those questions. Any further questions, sir? Dr. Juan, I apologize, but I just have a few more questions. He asked me a few more questions, I answer those questions. Any further questions, sir? He's like, Dr. Juan, I apologize, but I do just have a few more questions. He asked me a few more questions, I answer those questions. By now, all of you, I'm sure, can tell that Bob is kind of giving me the runaround, right? Beating around the bush. Finally asked, are there any further questions, sir? He's like, Dr. Juan, I don't have any further questions. But I just have to take a quick time out because it's just a lot of information, and I kind of got to go home and think about it. Let's just all be real for one hot second right now. All of us are adults for the most part in this room right now. What are 99.75% of people saying when they say I'm going home to think about it? No, right? So I want you to really look within yourself, right? And think about whether you want this approach to healthcare or not, right? At the end of the day, it's entirely up to you. But Bob decided to go home and think about it. So going home to think about it, in my eyes and in many people's eyes, is I'm going to go home and shop around because I want a better price. But I argue that when you're seeking healthcare, you should probably be looking for the better care more so than the better price, right? So Bob decided to go to 3 other chiropractors, gave them the same exact opinion. They said, this is terrible, that is bad, we're going to adjust you a few times and your insurance will cover, but after that, it's going to be considered preventative and your insurance will not cover. He's like, I don't like that answer. So he then goes to 9 medical doctors. And in a span of time, he went to 9 different medical doctors. In those 9 medical doctors' appointments, he was told, I have 2 options for you. You have drugs and surgery. He's like, well, I don't want drugs, but I want whatever my insurance will cover. I have really good insurance. Bob then proceeds and goes to the 10th doctor. 10th doctor says, I have 2 options for you, drugs and surgery. Guess what option you have left if you don't want drugs? Surgery. Bob decided to do surgery, and this is Bob post-surgery. This is 2 plates, 6 screws. Wild guess, how much does that cost? That's actually $100,000 surgery. For reference, a knee replacement is $40,000. A broken wrist because you fell on ice or something is actually $60,000 to reconstruct it. If this is near your spinal cord and it can potentially paralyze you or maim you in any way, guess what? It's a lot more time, a lot more expensive, $100,000. But he had really good insurance, as you recall. Really good insurance for him meant that they covered 90% of the cost of his actual surgery. Good for him, $90,000. He still had to pay how much out of pocket? $10,000. Do most people have $10,000 just hanging out in the bank? The answer is probably not, right? So guess what Bob had to do? He had to go to his retirement bank and he said, hey guys, how you doing? Yes, I'm Bob. I need $10,000 out of my retirement account. They said, not a problem. You're not retirement age yet. You gotta pay some penalties. You gotta pay some taxes. It's gonna be about double the amount of money you need. It's gonna be about $20,000. Not a problem. $10,000 to the actual IRS / fees in the bank. $10,000 to the doctors. Guess what Bob still had after the surgery? He still had what? Pain. Is the pain the same or worse? Definitely worse. They cut you open, muscles, ligaments, tendons, nerves, drill holes into your bones, they put plates and screws and they sew you back up. How is that pain managed post-surgery? They give you what? Medications. What didn't Bob want originally? Medications. The medication they gave him starts with the letter O. Oxycodone. 2 molecular changes from a street drug known as heroin, right? So Bob got exactly what his insurance would cover. So some time passes by, about 2 months. His wife still comes to the office at the time. He comes with her, but he hangs out in the waiting area. He's in the waiting area. One day I'm heading from the back of the office to the front and I run into his wife and I say, hello, how are you? He says, Dr. Juan, I'm concerned. Well, what are you concerned about? I'm concerned about Bob. Well, why? Well, Dr. Juan, I'm concerned about Bob because Bob is actually in so much pain, he's taking 4 to 6 oxycodone pills a day in a 24-hour period. And I'm afraid he may be becoming actually addicted. And I am so sorry to hear that, but is there anything I, as a chiropractor, can do about this area right here? The answer is no. That's been changed forever. I can adjust above, I can adjust below. I cannot do anything about that. That's been changed forever. The reason why I advocate for chiropractic care first, even if you absolutely hate it, you hate the environment, it doesn't matter. I'm going to try it first because of this reason. This is permanent. Chiropractic adjustments are not, right? So Bob got exactly what his insurance would cover. So I said, there's something wrong. You should have less pain, not more pain. Post-adjustment, you should get a second opinion. They go back, get a second opinion to realize that one of these screws right here was defective from the manufacturer and unfortunately broke off and it's hanging out right here, right? So guess what they have to do to fix it? They have to do another what? Surgery. How much do they charge you for the same surgery the second time? The same exact amount of money. There's no buy one, get one, right? There's no deal. It's another $100,000. Of course, he started the lawsuit, medical malpractice, right? Who wouldn't? And I understand that, right? But how long does it take to settle a medical malpractice case in America? Anywhere from 3 to 7 years, the average is 5 years, right? So literally, he had a second surgery. He had a deductible that was $30,000, of which he only met $10,000. So guess what Bob had to do? Go get another what? $10,000 from the bank. Again, really 20. $10,000 to slash IRS slash bank fees. $10,000 to the doctors. Guess what Bob still had after the second surgery? He still had what? Pain, right? Is the pain the same or worse than the first surgery? Worse. Is that pain now managed by 1 or 3 medications? 3 medications. Folks, what I just described to you is unfortunately called the hamster wheel of medicine. You start running in this hamster wheel, right? You start running the hamster wheel, and the neck pain you get, drugs for, the low back pain, surgery for, drugs and surgery for every ailment that you have, right? As you keep running the hamster wheel, more drugs and surgery, until the only time you ever get off that wheel, unfortunately for many people, is when you fall off dead off to the side 10, 20, 30 years from now, right? The reality is this though, the question is super simple, folks. The question is, which one is the better investment? Is it the $100,000 surgery that they have to do twice? Is it the $40,000 out of the actual retirement account? Is it you getting hooked on prescription drugs that potentially potentially overdosing and destroying your family? Or is it the $4,000, even if the insurance covers 0 pennies? It is a no-brainer. I'm not trying to insult anybody's intelligence. At the end of the day, it really comes down to what you want. When it comes to your healthcare, you have 3 choices, really, unfortunately, in our country. The 3 choices are the following. First, you can do exactly what the insurance medical model says to you. Second, you can do something preventative like we do in our office. Third, you can continue to ignore it and do nothing about it. At the end of the day, you're going to pay for it either way, either now or later. And unfortunately, later will always cost more money, not just because of inflation, but because your spine does not get better with time, folks. Ask your grandparents, I guarantee they'll agree with me, right? At the end of the day, folks, if this is landed as a sales pitch, an informational brief, just a simple presentation, you have completely missed the boat. It's not about convincing you to do anything. It's about you becoming convicted that your health is important. You should probably take care of it so it takes care of you, right? Many people say they cannot afford things until it starts costing them something. What's it cost you the ability to pick up your kids or grandkids, hug them and kiss them? Cost you the ability to go to work, to obviously provide for your family. Cost you the simple ability to go for a walk with your spouse after dinner. That's when we all of a sudden get creative and figure out ways to afford things. Take care of your spine so it takes care of you. You only get one in this lifetime. You cannot upgrade it. You cannot trade it in. The only thing you can do is take care of it. All right? I got one more slide and we're done. I feel as though we set the bar very high in our office, right? And these are the things that our best patients that get the best results, the things that they do. The first thing that they do is the following. These are not requirements of the things that you should emulate if you want to get the best results. So first is that we see our patients that get the best results put in the time to correct the problem. I will say it again. Put in the time to correct your problem, right? Adult 101, folks. Number one, identify the problem. Number two, correct the problem, right? So we're going to hold you accountable. What does that mean? Like, put in the time to correct your problem. We're going to recommend a certain amount of adjustments in our practice to correct your spine. We're going to recommend a certain amount of rehab exercises before you get adjusted. Also, post adjustment rehab that you will do at home, right? If you came in this office kind of like willy-nilly thinking like, hey, I'm going to come and go as I please, kind of be my own doctor, kind of like I used to do it at my other chiropractor's office. Folks, it's not that we don't love you, that's just not what we're good at. And if that is you, that's absolutely okay. There's plenty of people like that have come here, it's just not the right office for them, we understand that. But if you want your spine corrected to that 45 out of 45 degree angle, you are in the right place, okay? Second, get your family checked. We see that our patients that actually take care of the entire families have better results because they're in it together, right? Because the question is this: when would you want to know if the bundle of nerves going to your spouse's heart were being blocked by 90%? When you want to know if your children are developing scoliosis? You want to know yesterday, right? Exactly why every single month we team up with a different charity in our office to support in exchange for donations, right? That you actually bring to our office. So essentially the way it would work is this way. So you're in your brain are thinking like, well, what does that mean? I want to get my family's check, but how much is that going to cost? It doesn't cost you anything. It cannot be free because it would be illegal. So for that reason, those charities we team up with every single month, they have needs. What we do is we get a list of those needs. We put that list in front of you, whatever items you can bring to support that need for that charity in the form of a bag with about $52 or so of actual goods that you bring for whatever charity you're supporting that month. And in that bag donation, in exchange, we perform an examination and x-ray for one of your family members. If you got 5 family members, you bring 5 bags of items. If you got 1 family member, 1 bag of items. Just because you get checked as a family member does not mean you become a patient in our office today. What simply does, it actually gives you a true north reading of how healthy or unhealthy your family truly is. And I argue that once you know your family is unfortunately potentially unhealthy, how can you not want to take care of that, right? So if you decide to do this, we're going to ask that you get your families checked. So at least you know what's going on with them. If you have the time today, we can actually check you today. It takes an extra 10 to 15 minutes to actually take those x-rays, okay? Last thing we ask is that, tell other people that you know, chances are most of you have probably never heard of this before. I know there's some of you that have because you've been to a chiropractor before. But the reality is that most of you have never been told that your brain controlling your body happens through the spinal cord, and that the vertebra, if they're out of position, that would affect the actual performance of your body's functions, right? You've never been told that before. The sad reality is that what are the chances your friends, family members, co-workers, church members know about this? Slim to none. When do you think I wish somebody would have told my mom at an office like this? 20, 30 years ago? Of course, right? I wish somebody would have said something though before my mom got literally a mastectomy that removes her left breast completely, so many lymph nodes that to this day my mom has a condition known as lymphadenopathy. Her arm is swollen about 4 times the size of my arm, has to wear a compression sock, compression glove for 23 hours of the day, otherwise her arm can be amputated. Or I wish somebody would have said something before my mom got scared into doing a short bout of chemotherapy, right? That had her so sick for 2 months that my mom literally lost all her hair and actually was having severe bowel issues to the tune that she was having 10 to 12 bowel movements per day, right? Or I wish somebody said something before my oldest daughter, Eden, and I were FaceTiming my mom. When she was about 4 years old, my daughter and I are FaceTiming my mom on the iPad. As we're FaceTiming, my daughter at 4 years old pauses, looks at me and says, "Daddy, where's Mama's hair?" At that moment, I had to explain to my daughter what cancer was, that her grandma had it, and what the potential outcomes can be in the future. Folks, every night we go to bed, my kids and I pray for the same thing over and over. We pray for my mom to still be there when they get married, right? Because literally, that is the only thing she's ever wanted to do. So we're asking you, if you know that person that's close to you but far from health, what gives you the right to know what you know and not to tell the rest of the world about it, right? So if you decide to do this, we're going to ask you to that one person that comes to mind right now, and we're going to invite you guys out to a dinner. Every single month we do a dinner with the doc at Basil's in Troy. At this dinner, what we simply do is we talk about this concept of what we do in our office, and at that moment, that person, not you or me, that person says, you know what? I had no idea that my bad neck or bad back are causing my headaches or my high blood pressure. I'm going to get checked out. Because if you had the opportunity to save somebody else's life without risking your own life, will you do it? The answer is always yes, right? So if you decide to do this, we're going to ask you for that name on that person in the next visit, right? But at the end of the day, I want you to just imagine for a second the vision and the mission that we have on our hearts here at Full Life Chiropractic. Can you imagine everybody in our community being a little healthier and a little happier? How much better off would we be? It'd be phenomenal, right? This is exactly why we're asking you, are you willing to come on mission with us? You don't have to answer that question right now. You can answer that question later. Tonight, today, this morning, it's not about you, those people that you know. It's about you and your families. It's about that vision of community and being healthier together. And all we're asking is, are you willing to come on mission with us? Thanks so much. We're going to go back and look at your x-rays now.